All right, everybody. Doing some experimenting with my new Ace Pro Inst360. Did a bunch of riding around this morning and wasn't sure I liked the footage. Well, no, I just didn't like the ride. I've been sitting here playing with the different settings, 4K 60, or should I go to drop to 4K 30, but use HDR? Like, you know, what's the better way to do it? Playing with the microphone settings. So I don't know if I'm going to use any of the footage from this morning, so I'm going to kind of go over and reiterate some things here. Not that you know it, because if I don't post the other video, you won't see it. So what we got? Well, got the new Ace Pro with the Leica lens and all that good stuff. Playing around with different settings. The angle was off on the camera because it's slightly different dimensions, so it was aimed a little too low. Huh. That's weird. Ducati. Anyway, yeah, so what I'm doing is trying to figure out, I want to get some really good video, and I'm probably going to go buy some software so that I'm not just using iMovie. Get up the production value. Once I get the, you know, the camera and the video kind of really where I want, get the audio really dialed in, which we'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe I'll do a bit more with software and cool effects, intros, outros, you know, try and pick up some stuff there. So I think where I'm gonna go is, you know, we'll see if 4K 60 with, you know, it's, if you're using HDR in 4K, it's limited to 30 frames. I think if I drop down to 1080, I can get it at 60, but apparently HDR, the processing required, I don't know, there's some limitation, and most cameras have something similar. The image stabilization on this is excellent. I'll go through my camera setting. You know what, actually, rather than try to remember them all here and getting half of them wrong, I'll put them there at the bottom of the screen, there, or there, I don't know, somewhere. There'll be what my settings are. And so does, you know, 4K 60 look better because it might be a little crisper and smoother for high-speed stuff, action type things? Or is it better to drop to 30, get a little bit of a motion blur-ish kind of effect, but have HDR? So I'm experimenting, and we'll see. If this looks better, then this will be the video I post. If the other one looks better, then you're going to hear the other video. So, so far the video I saw on the other screen looked pretty goddamn good. You know, on the other from this morning. Problem was, I wanted to get up and get some good action shots up in the mountains, and it's all beautiful. Look at the weather; it's awesome, just like the weather report says. Until I get to Blood Mountain or any of the mountain roads where I actually want to ride, and then it's all raining and thundering and shit. And then you go 2 minutes away from the mountains, and it's fine. So, unfortunately, that is Atlanta weather. It's great because we always say we get to ride year-round down here. But the reality is, like, from April to, like, August, it rains 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week. Most years, unless there's a drought. And it always rains on weekends, so I don't get as much riding in on weekends in spring. Like, everyone looks forward to the spring riding season. I don't as much because I know it's going to be pollen and rain, and it's going to suck. And it, more often than not, does not disappoint. So, this camera's got a lot more features than the one that I had, that I still have. What I'm going to use that one for is I'm going to put a mount on the back of the bike, on the tail. So if I'm in the mountains or going down the Dragon or doing a track day or something, I can have a camera facing back for whoever's chasing me, and I can do picture-in-picture and have the better camera up front with the better image quality, and it won't matter on the back one because it's going to be facing back and it'll be small, so, you know, or I can flip back and forth and it'll still be 4K HDR or 4K 60, whichever I just settle on is kind of the preferred shooting setting. This camera's got the ability to do 8K 24, and I think HDR at 8K, which is a 24 frame cinematic, which is insane. I'm going to do 4K 60 or 4K 30, depending on whether HDR makes it look better or does 60K make it look better. What is really cool about this thing is the battery life is better. The low light, I've seen videos of people riding like, oh, not when it's like, oh, it's cloudy. I mean like riding at night with their headlights and street lamps being the only real lighting, and it looks friggin' amazing. On a GoPro, it would be shit and blurry, and the image stabilization ends up making a mess of it because it's got to, damn it, it's got to have a longer exposure to let more light in to actually get usable video, which messes with the image stabilization, so it's all shaky and has like artifacts and ghosting. It just looks horrible. So this thing though, holy crap, is it good at night. I haven't done it, but I've seen a bunch of videos from review sites that have, and it's fantastic. Fantastical. Bellissimo. And another thing I saw, so, you know, I just had that little ordeal where my Cena, the waterproof Cena, fried, which is exactly what happened to Nico's a couple weeks prior. Got stuck in the rain and it fried. So much for being water resistant or waterproof. So it was, so I decided, oh, I'm going to wait. I've just got a Bluetooth module hooked up to the speakers that are in the helmet, the JBLs. Just got a headphone jack, plug rather. And so I just, you know, plugged in a little USB 5.3 audio receiver. It's just a little tiny box, about the size of an Apple Watch or one of those iPod Nanos, and just Velcroed it to the side of the helmet and charge it when I need to, and, you know, all that good stuff. So I've got that playing music, but when I do get a new Cena or Cardo or whatever I get, apparently that can go to the camera. You can link them and then use your audio from your comm system, which frankly for recording voice is the best of any of the microphones I've ever used. The noise isolating is just absolutely phenomenal. It's crazy good. Now it will mean you won't hear the motor as much. Everything is a trade-off, folks. But you know, when I was using my Cenas, a couple of them over the years, I'd be on the phone going down the interstate at 80, and the people on, like, I had to shout over the wind noise, but the people on the other end of the phone didn't know. Now when I'd rev it, they could hear a motorcycle engine in the background. But for vlogging, it's going to be, oh, Clibbins! Clibbins in the road. Goddamn Clibbins, almost had to lay her down. I hate assholes who do that. And then anytime you see it online, people talking about that, they're like, well, if you knew how to ride a bike, it wouldn't matter if you were in a turn on wet, greasy... Shut up. You complete tool. You don't know how to ride, and it has nothing to do with it. Throwing your trash in the middle of the road when it is a hazard for people, not just motorcycles, but shit, it can cause a car to slide. Who knows? Point is, if you're such a lazy, low-life trailer park trash that you just dump all your grass in the road, then you're a scumbag. Whether it's affecting bikers or not. Anyway, I digress, as I often do. So, what is that going to allow me to do? Well, have a better microphone, which has much better signal to noise ratio, so it can handle higher decibels without clipping and giving any static. Because with this microphone I have on right now, this is not my powered microphone. This is one of my older giant squids or purple pandas or something like that. And the reason I'm using that temporarily is because I'm trying to get away from as many wires and shit as I can. And unfortunately for me, the microphone that works the best is a powered microphone. So you got this little tubular box, about the size of like it's a little bit bigger than like a AA battery, but not as big as a C size battery. And then it's got like an 8-foot cord. It's ridiculously, needlessly long. And so there's no place to tuck it up inside the helmet, like coil up the wire a little bit. You can do that with 1 or 2 feet of wire and stick it under the cheek piece. Can't do it with that. So I have and the box doesn't fit in the helmet, the little tube-shaped thing with the batteries and the power switch. So now you have to remember to turn it on, turn it off, change batteries occasionally, and there's no battery indicator, so I just change the battery every month, whether it needs it or not. You gotta run the wire from the microphone, which gets velcroed in place, goes down into my jacket, where I have all the wire coiled up into a ball and zip tied to the box, with then enough slack for the wire to come back up into the helmet and then out to the camera. It's kind of clunky, and you catch it on things, and it's, you know, it's just a bunch of extra things to deal with. But that one does give me like no distortion. It's a really good microphone, but it's a pain. If you use the COM microphone, which is designed for it's designed for riding, it's designed for wind noise and motor noise and stuff. The microphone, the dB levels are perfect, and it's really good at noise isolating. Apparently with this new camera, you can pair the camera to that, just like you can to AirPods or other Bluetooth microphone systems, but it has specifically modes for Cena and Cardo, so I could use that. So I'd have the box and all the wires hidden, and I just click the camera here, or I could click it onto this RAM ball mount. I have to order the other end of it, but I could put the camera there, and I'm going to go back to having the camera on the bike. The problem is if I put the camera there now, it's going to be nothing but road noise. It sucks that GoPro, which is the shittiest camera on the market when it comes to reliability, overheating, random lockups, data corruption, they're a shit design. They put all this power. When it works amazingly well. Like the video quality's great, other than low light. This thing blows it out of the water in low light, night shooting. But the damn thing, even on the motorcycle with wind going over it, it'll overheat after like 15 minutes and you'll lose all your video. It's just horrible. But GoPro is the only action cam company that has figured out how to get rid of the wind noise. So you can have that thing right here getting blasted by wind, and all you're going to hear is the motor with a little bit of wind noise. They got some special sauce that lets them do that, and other folks don't. So if I mount the camera there, I'm going to have to use an external mic. And that means wires going from there into my helmet, up my jacket, whatever. I'm going to have wires out and exposed. It's going to be kind of a pain in the ass. Or, you know, this guy could have cut the corner if he'd let me go, but alright, whatever. Anyway, when I can go to this wireless setup without having extra wireless boxes and shit like I had with the DJI, which also fried in the rain because it's a piece of crap. So what I would end up having is I could just click the camera here, or facing backwards, or on the helmet. I could put the camera wherever I freaking want it and have nice, crisp, clear audio with no wires or anything. If I get off the bike and I'm walking around it and talking, the audio will be there. I'm not limited by wires. It's not extra shit to charge. That's things, my comm system, which I'd already have charged, and then a camera, and that's it. No wires, no extra boxes. That, when I get another Cardo or Cena system, is going to be fantastic. I was going to hold off, but now I'm like, oh, maybe I should spend the money and get that, because that'd be really damn cool. So if I do that, then I can use the horizon leveling gimbal effect. I tried it earlier today. It was okay, but honestly, the super view, even though the super view has a little bit of distortion with like the fisheye effect and stuff, it does look kind of cool. And like when you see people like doing the selfie sticks and they're doing like ski jumps and flipping in the air and slalom on skis and all that kind of shit, they're typically using that view. It's called active or action view, which is basically just their word for GoPro's super view. It's like ultra wide plus, and it gives you kind of a first person view, not cinematic necessarily, but it's just a very immersive, even though it has a little bit of fisheye view. I think that's going to look good for some stuff, like maybe here where I'm looking around and I'm constantly changing the angle. But once I've got it set static, I'm going to use horizon lock, like a 45 degree. You can go 360 to where you could turn the camera upside down and you won't see any change, but it has to zoom in and crop in order to do that, so your field of view gets smaller. If I do the 45 degree lock, that means unless I'm at more of the 45 degree angle, or the bike here is, you're not going to see it. You're going to see, go back and go look at some of my videos from Road Atlanta on the ZX6R from like three and a half years ago, and I was using horizon lock with super zoom or the super lens mod, whatever it was, on the GoPro, the last one I had that was half reliable. The few videos I got out of it before I shot it with a 22, because I just got pissed off at it because it would constantly lock up and I'd lose my footage. A couple of the track days that it worked, it's amazing, crisp 4K video, and the horizon, the ground, all the scenery is perfectly rock steady, but what you see is the bike rolling left and right. And it looks like when you're watching Rossi or something like a MotoGP race, they do the same thing. It's not the whole camera leaning like your TV's leaning left and right. They use horizon lock, and they're probably actually on a gimbal, so they're probably not using horizon lock. They're using a proper gimbal. This thing will look like that. You'll see the bike leaning back and forth like it's on this ultra smooth gimbal, and everything else stays nice and flat. But in order for it to work properly like that, I mean, you get a little bit of that effect if I, like here, I'm rolling my head from side to side and you're seeing the camera pitch back and forth a little bit. It would get rid of that, but it doesn't change anything else. It's like that just helps you stay a little steady. I don't know. When it's on the bike, it has a really cool effect, because even though the camera is turning with the bike, I mean, the camera isn't on a gimbal, it's physically leaning, it doesn't look like it. It looks like the camera is on a gimbal, sitting completely flat at all times, and it makes it look like the bike underneath it is leaning into the turns. It's a really cool effect. I don't know how they do it, some kind of electronic sorcery, whatever. It looks really good. So I'm gonna do that. Maybe what I'll do, so I don't have to worry about ripping wires out, is I'll use my wired microphone. I guess I could probably do this in the meantime. Take my wired microphone and Velcro it up inside the helmet, and then run it down into this bag here, and coil up everything in here, and then there's a hole in the front for like a charging wire or something. I can run the wire out into the camera, and that way it's stationary pretty much between the camera and the bike, and I don't have to worry if I pull on something, I'm just pulling at some of the 6 feet of slack in here. I don't have to worry about if I move or something, I'm ripping the wire out of the camera. And I could use that microphone for now. As soon as I would be doing that right now, that would actually be my test right now. But I need to get another piece. I've got the clamp that clamps onto this, but I need the other end that has the ball, that then my whatchamacallit thingy, my camera has the slots to slot into and then screw into. So I used to have one. I don't know where the hell it is. It went somewhere and I can't find it. So when I get that, That'll improve the audio a little bit better over what you're hearing right now, although I think this probably sounds like acceptable, but it will be a little bit better. But I'm going to have that camera right here. You'll have the dash-in view. I can aim it exactly, and I'll be able to see what's going on and make sure the camera's on, or if I need to change the settings, I'm going to have the touchscreen right here. Right now, the touchscreen is facing my helmet, and I can't physically see it or get to it when it's on the helmet. It has a flip-up screen, but when you flip it up, now it's facing forward, which is fine if you have a selfie stick or you're putting it on a tripod and you're like doing an interview or something and you're in front of the camera flips forward and you can see yourself on the big screen and make sure you're lined up in the shot and all that kind of shit. It's a really cool camera. It's waterproof, even with the flip-up screen and all that stuff. It's waterproof without a case down to 33 feet. So if I want to take it swimming in the pool or go snorkeling up to, 10, 15, 20 feet, perfectly fine. I can go down underwater with that thing and, record amazing looking video. So, what else? I mean, this is just a test run, little vlog about the microphone or the camera and some of the changes that should hopefully be coming to the channel. But when I get that gimbal effect, I think it'll be better because you're going to get a much better cockpit view of the bike. It's going to be able to, it'll always be in the same position. You won't have me checking my watch and moving around. I mean, sometimes that can be annoying to some people when you're watching the video, because you do so many things when you ride or when you're standing there that you don't really think about. You're just like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? Oh, what's behind me? What's that? And a lot of times people want to watch, they just want to see the video of this thing on the road doing its thing, right? And so by me being able to put the camera right there and just lock it in and set it and leave it, I think that's going to be great. So that should be good. I'll get a sticky mount and put the other camera, the Inst360 1RS 4K. I can have that one facing backwards. I think this spot under the tail above the license plate I can stick it to. And that will give me some rear view footage, and then I can splice them together. I'm going to try some new things this season. I want to get the absolute best image quality and just beautiful whatever I can get on the front. And I want that gimbal view, and I want to get that wireless crisp clean audio. I think that'll be just tremendous. And then I'll go buy a software, like a proper video editor, and something that'll give me some really cool effects, make intros, outros of my logo, and make the videos a bit more polished and a bit more professional. It hasn't been a priority for me because I'm always like, I'm just doing this for fun. But it would be kind of cool, to get some of that higher production value, and I don't know, it'd just be kind of neat. Actually, you know what, I'm just going to go back this way. Stay off the main roads. Got a whole shit ton of gravel right here. So HDR, I think the details, like when you look at the shadows and stuff under the trees, and I think it has to do a lot with the clouds. I turned the EV comp down a little bit to like -0.5. If that's not enough with 4K 60, maybe I'll go to -1. Although on a low light day, that might be, I don't know, that might be too dark, but I guess I can always brighten it in post. If it's blown out, it's like audio. If your audio coming in, if the gain is too high and you got popping, crackling, and it's blowing out the audio, lowering the volume won't get rid of that. It'll just be still blown out, just quieter. It'll still sound like shit. But if the audio is a little bit too quiet, but as long as it's clear, you can boost it like 400% in post and make it loud without it sounding worse. And I think the HDR, which just gives you that wider dynamic range and helps get you the shadows, and then especially like when the sun comes out or you look up at the clouds, instead of it just being like this white blur that kind of washes out the sky. You want to be able to see the white clouds with the blue. A lot of times when you're looking at video, you don't realize it. I'm looking at deep blue skies and then big white bright reflective clouds, and a lot of times it just kind of makes the whole sky look kind of white. You can see variations of the clouds, but it washes out the blue because of the bright white part of the clouds. So HDR is supposed to help with that. It's just a question of, does that make, is that a better visual look worth having to drop to 30 frames a second? I look at, what's this guy doing? You all right? What are you doing? You good? You good? All right, oh, he's taking pictures. And so, I'm gonna snap my lid. There we go. So that's the difference. Right now, I'm hoping that this video looks tremendous. You can see the blue skies with the detail of the clouds. When I come around the corner, there's some white wispy clouds, and then there's some that are detailed. And I'm hoping that this camera can really bring out some of the detail of those clouds. When I was talking to Chase from Chase at Two Wheels over at Mount Motorsports a couple weeks ago, you know, I didn't talk to him about this at the time, but I know from watching a lot of his videos, he actually shoots all his stuff at 24 frames. He likes that cinematic, and it looks pretty good. Now, granted, he's got, you know, Final Cut, all kinds of, you know, he's got a video guy that can make all his stuff look, you know, like Lucasfilms. I don't have the knowledge or the resources for that. But yeah, like those like it's bright, but then there's the shadows. That's where the HDR is supposed to kind of bring out some of the details in those shadows. So we'll see. I'll get home and pull up this video and look at them side by side and see which one I like, and then I'll post whatever video seems to be my preferred settings. And then I'm going to order the piece I need to mount the camera here so I can turn on the gimbal effect and move the camera off the helmet, which is going to be better for track too, because I can put the camera there. They don't let you have a big camera. They're always looking for that. But I bet you after I go through tech inspection, you know, I'm going to have the bass, you know, I'll have the speakers and the microphone. The helmet's wired up, and I'll have the little bass on the side of the helmet for the Cardo or Cena, whichever one I get. I'm going to pick whatever one's smaller, a little less conspicuous. And I'll go ahead and, you know, click that on and hope nobody sees it. And that way I'll have my audio out on track instead of just wind noise and having to do voiceovers. Having the helmet cam, they will bust me and be like, oh, you got to take that off, and they'll send me back to the pits. So this will be better for track to have the camera mounted there without it just being nothing but wind noise where you can't even hear the motor. I guess I'll go this way and just head on back. I got nothing else to do today. Go home and watch TV, play with video. Thought I was in first gear, not second. I'm like, how come I'm not having to shift yet? Like, no, I started off in second. I do love this bike. Alright, every once in a while it does miss a shift, and I don't know. So here's something I love the Ducati. I just got done talking about how much I love riding this thing. But there are certain things. I think the quick shifter on the Yamaha's better, because here it's like, and maybe I got to adjust the damn thing more, but it's like you use the quick shifter, and then if you don't really, like, your foot might be resting against it a little bit, against the lever, and it's like it doesn't reset. And so you go to shift the next one, and it cuts for a second, but it doesn't actually shift, so and it's not shifting. So whether that's the quick shifter or it's just the gearbox here, the Yamaha, I almost never had a missed shift like that. It doesn't happen a lot on this, but every once in a frickin' while, it does. And so maybe I've just got to move that lever up a little bit, so when your foot's underneath it, it's not kind of riding on the lever. Yeah, it's like there, I just pull up a little bit and it wants to engage. So let me just try this again, do exactly what I did before. I just have to make sure I push my foot down to, I'm not riding the... Yeah, there it's very smooth and precise. I think I've got to maybe adjust it a little bit up. I think when my foot is in its natural position underneath it, it's riding it a little bit, and it's not letting the gear selector come down that last 2 or 3 millimeters. I don't know if reset's the right word, but I'm not letting it come back all the way down. So then when I go to grab the next gear, it hasn't actually grabbed it. It'll reactivate the shifter the electronically, but it isn't actually grabbing that next gear. And if it's doing it with these boots, it might be worse with my other boots that are taller. So the only problem with this is to adjust it. You have to take off the rear set. Another Ducati quirk. It's not like you loosen the 2 nuts and then you rotate, you spin the rod, the connector rod, and it raises the lever up or down, and then you just tighten it. You can test it, tighten it, you know, or just rotate it, test it, and then tighten it. Here you got to take the thing apart, take the rear set off, disconnect the linkage from the rear set, loosen the nut, spin it around, reconnect it to the rear set, reinstall the rear set, because if it's not reinstalled, then the lever won't be in the right place. And then you test it, and you're like, oh, that's not enough. Let me spend 5 minutes taking it all apart again, moving it 1 or 2 rotations, reassembling it, putting it back on the bike to test it again, and hopefully by the 3rd or 4th time, and you've spent half an hour. It's really freaking annoying. Granted, once it's set up for you, you don't have to do it again, but I'm like, come on, Ducati, you probably could have come up with a better way than that. And on other bikes they did, not this one. And Donna's Monster was kind of the same way. I think I had to remove something. Hers, I think I just had to remove the shifter from the rear set, and then I could spin the whole thing with it. But on this one, you got to take it off. It's a pain in it. It's very annoying. And of course, they use a shit ton of red Loctite. So when I took it off the first time, trying to loosen it with the hex wrench, spun the hex wrench and stripped it. So I had to pull the bolt off with a pair of vice grips. I was able to break the red Loctite, and then I had to go find another bolt that fit. That is the downside to Ducati and some of the more niche Italian brands, is they kind of do stuff like that. Yeah, see, as long as I'm making a pronounced effort to make sure I lift up and grab the next gear and then push my foot down to make sure I'm not riding the lever. But I think in my foot's natural position, it kind of wants to ride that lever a little bit. So I think I need to move it up half a turn. It's not much, because 99% of the time it's doing what it's supposed to. But I've noticed every once in a while, if I'm not paying attention, it's like I'm not letting that gear lever come all the way back down to click and grab the next gear. So that might not be a Ducati thing. That's probably a me thing. The Ducati part of it is that it's not simple to just adjust. Like normally I could just adjust it on the fly on the side of the road if I wanted. Not here. I got to get home, get a couple different size Allen wrenches, and take the rear set off and monkey around with it. So we'll do that. I did move it up a little bit, and it's happening less, but I did just catch myself doing it. So I'm going to move that up one more click. And that should be good. The camera has a pause feature, which is kind of cool. So if I click it right now, hopefully it's still recording, right? Yeah, it's got a really big LED. Like it's like that wide instead of a little pinhole one. So here I can glance and I can see, even in the bright sunlight, direct sunlight, I can see that thing's flashing and recording, and I'm not talking to my freaking self again. But the controls are a little different. So when I go ahead and I push the top button, it'll pause the video, which is great if you're at a light and you don't want to sit there for 5 minutes wasting, recording space or time or whatever, battery. You can just click it once and it pauses and goes into standby mode, and then when you click it again, it'll come back and start recording again. Nice feature. But if you don't know that and you go to turn it off, because most other cameras, when you put it on quick shoot or whatever it's called, quick capture, whatever mode you leave the camera in, and when you shut it off, you can push one button to record and then push one button to stop, and that way you're going down the road at speed, you can go click, and you don't have to sit there and monkey around with it. This one, you got to double click it to turn it off. So it's one click to come on, two to shut it off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Hopefully this works out successfully. I'll put the settings in there. Let me know what you think of the quality compared to my last video. And, we'll talk to everybody soon.